saw a hand reach down at the bottom and just twist it and pull it out. And it was all this anger that I had had towards the church and towards people in the church. Not any particular church, not any particular person. Just anger for what the church had done to people. And he just ripped it out. And there in the soil, I saw 3 words written: resentment, bitterness, hatred. And I realized that's what I felt towards the church. And they were my sin.
What'd you do about it?
I confessed my sin, and he was faithful and just to forgive me my sin and cleanse me from all unrighteousness. I saw his hand peel up those words and just throw them away. I knew something was different. I started coming to church every time they had church, and really, it was wonderful. I felt a big load was off of me. And in Toronto, they were having an intercessory prayer conference.
But let me tell you something. In Toronto, she got much more. You heard about Pentecost, where they accused him of being drunk, but Peter said, it's just 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, it might have been 9 o'clock in the morning at Pentecost, and it might have been 9 o'clock in the morning for Judy, but they had to carry her out of there. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We'll return to more of Sid Roth and It's Supernatural.
Hello, Sid Roth here, your investigative reporter, talking to Judy Franklin, the pastor's secretary from Bethel Church here in Redding, California, where we're doing these special shows. And she had a tough childhood, felt total rejection. No one loved her. It passed on to her husband, and it passed on to her relationship with God. As a 4-year-old, she drank some paint thinner, turpentine, and she had bladder infections for 45 years that would just knock her out. And the doctors had no cure. So she went up to Toronto Airport Church, where they're having revival 2 times. The second time, she literally got drunk in the spirit. What happened the first time?
The first time I went, it was an intercessory prayer conference. I wanted to know how to pray for my boys because they weren't walking with the Lord. And I didn't expect anything at all. And people were laughing there, and that didn't bother me. And people were falling, and that didn't bother me. But the last day, the Lord just touched me in such a way. He started early in the morning, and you talk about being drunk. I can remember going in their bookstore and talking to Susie about the lesson that I had just learned, and I started laughing, and I couldn't stop, and I got behind this door.
Wait a second now. Was anything funny going on?
Nothing was
What were you
funny.
laughing about?
I don't know what I was laughing about. I was just, and it was so healing. There was just a healing going on. I didn't laugh that often, especially around people. And here I am in this bookstore, and I can't stop. And it wasn't a laugh like, oh, this is fun. It was God's joy. It was pure joy, just bubbling up out of me. And I didn't understand it, but it felt so good, who cared? And so I stepped behind this door because I was laughing and I didn't want anybody to really see me.
Of course.
I started sliding down the wall. I couldn't even stand up. And that whole day, oh, God just did such a work. Jesus was there so wonderfully. But that night I was worshiping, and I had my hands up in the air, and I was looking up towards heaven. And I heard Jesus say, "What are you doing looking up? I'm right here." And I looked down, and he was standing in front of me. And I just took his hands in mine and started singing to him. And I put both of them in one hand, and I was just going like this, and I felt the nail scar in his hand. And he leaned forward, and he said, "You know something? I did that for you." And it was just, that was it. I couldn't do much after that. I mean, I was just so touched that he would show himself to me. The next day we came home, and the pastor's wife, Benny, had me get up and share on a Sunday night. And I shared, and I don't know if Pastor Bill prayed for me or not. I don't know what happened. All I know is I was on the ground. And the Lord just started doing another work in me, and I thought, I want to get up because I want to hear the next person. And I could not get up.
You were pinned to the ground.
I was pinned to the ground. I looked up at one point, and I saw this God's glory. I know that's what it was, and I don't know why I know what it was, but I know it was God's glory coming down. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, and it kept coming closer and closer, and I could actually feel it. And they tell me I was doing this. I was going back and forth because it was just running through my fingers. It was so beautiful. It wasn't solid. It was substance, though. And it just kept coming. And in His glory was His love. This love that I had never felt before. It was so incredible.
It's tangible.
It was tangible.
Well,
it was a substance.
The glory is described as a river, and maybe that's what you were doing. You were running your hand through the water.
Oh, it was wonderful, and it kept coming and kept coming. And this love grew stronger and stronger, and I realized that it was for me. He loved me. And that is the first time in my life I have ever felt loved, was that night, May 1st, 1997. I felt love. I thought, this is what it's like. I would look at people and think, I wonder what it would feel like to be loved. I knew I couldn't be, but I really wondered what it would be like. And I knew. And it wasn't just love for me. It was for everybody. It was for Saddam Hussein. It was for Charlie Manson. It was for everybody.
This isn't a natural thing.
No, this is a godly thing. It was so wonderful, and it just kept coming. And I felt such a weight press me down. And every time I took a breath, it would come. And at one point, I told him, I can't take any more. I can't. It became so bright, I had to put my hand over my eyes. But I wanted to see it, so I kept going like this, trying to look, but I couldn't. And I finally said, I can't take this. I am going to die. I knew I would die. And very slowly, without me realizing at first, it started going back. Got to be where I could look at it again. I could run my hand through it again.